Don't we wish life would just flow smoothly along? Everything would go the way we wanted it to go? Wouldn't that be wonderful? I know I would sure like to experience that. And every once in a while in my life it does happen. As a matter of fact, it happens quite often when I sort of let go of things. There's a saying we have called let go and let God. When I just sort of let go and try to stop trying to run the show, things really smooth out. And the frustration goes away. The reason this topic comes up to me right now is because I'm dealing with a lot of frustration. I had an accident because of my own ineptness, and it was my fault, 100%. And I smacked, really crashed my beautiful new, not new, but my beautiful BMW into a ditch, and the body shop fella thinks it's totaled, but the insurance company hasn't decided if it's totaled or not, so I can't decide if I can't make a decision to go buy a new car right now, and there's not very many used cars available right now, and I don't like to buy them new because that's a waste of money. And so, I found a car I like, but I can't buy it because I don't know if it's going to be totaled, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm dealing with car dealers, I'm dealing with insurance companies, I'm dealing with body shops and all that kind of stuff. At the same time, we've got to leave Saturday for a 15-day cruise. So, I'm feeling frustrated. And so therefore I'm writing this blog right now, because frustration is not a spiritual feeling. Right now I'm probably feeling anything but spiritual. Well, the main reason is I have a hard time understanding that I'm not in control. I'm not running the show. There's a book I read quite often. If any of you are familiar with the 12-step programs, you're probably familiar with the 12 steps, which incidentally, if you're fortunate enough not to have any kind of a particular addiction or dependency on any substance, I'd still recommend you read the 12 steps. It's a really great way to live your life. It really is. And step number 12 says, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to others and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Many of us exclaimed, "What an order, I can't go through with it." Do not be discouraged. No one among us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. We are not saints. The point is that we are willing to grow along spiritual lines. The principles we have set down are guides to progress. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. Every time I read that gives me hope, because I sure am a long ways from being perfect. It goes on to say, basically later on, just how do we make that spiritual progress? And it continues to say, the first requirement is that we be convinced that any life run on self-will can hardly be a success. On that basis, we are almost always in collision with something or somebody, even though our motives are good. Most people try to live by self-propulsion. Each person is like an actor who wants to run the whole show, is forever trying to arrange the lights, the ballet, the scenery, and the rest of the players in his own way. If his arrangements would only stay put, if only people would do as he wished, the show would be great. Everybody, including himself, would be pleased. Life would be wonderful. In trying to make these arrangements, our actor may be sometimes quite virtuous, may be kind, considerate, patient, generous, even modest and self-sacrificing. On the other hand, he may be egotistical, selfish, and dishonest. But as with most humans, he's most likely to have varied traits. Well, what happens? The show doesn't come off very well. He begins to think life doesn't treat him right. He decides to exert himself more. He becomes, on the next occasion, still more demanding or gracious, as the case may be. Still, the play does not suit him. Admitting that he may be somewhat at fault, he is sure that other people are more to blame. He becomes angry, indignant, self-pitying. What is his basic trouble? Now, here I am, folks. Listen to this. Is he not really a self-seeker, even when trying to be kind? Is he not a victim of the delusion that he can wrest satisfaction and happiness out of this world if he only manages well? You know, I love to read this because every time I read it, it reminds me of the fact that if I'm frustrated, it's only because I want the world to operate the way I want the world to operate. I am not running the show. You know, I wrote a whole book about that, the spiritual style of management. Who's running this show anyway? You know, you'd think a guy who writes a book like that ought to, you know, have it made, right? I can turn it over, right? No frustration for me. It's practice, not perfection. It's spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. Well, I'm dealing with this frustration right now, and I think you can see now why I've got the frustration. And you can also see why I decided to write this blog, because I need to be talking to myself here and saying, Jim, let go and let God. Whatever happens is okay. You do not have to make it happen the way you want it to happen. Relax, take it easy, don't struggle. You often can be surprised how the right answers come if you just can remember that. Have a great day. Bye now.